Enrique, and today I'm doing my video response for Spanish 160 on the film Fresas y Chocolate. Today, the character that I picked to analyze was David or David because I believe that he represents a lot of people that I have grown up around and a lot of the culture that I see in Hispanic households that I have been around. Uh, to begin, David does what a lot of young people do that I know. David is a young, idealistic university student, and he's a supporter of the Cuban Revolution. Right, he has been raised and educated within the socialist society that Cuba was, right, which gave him loyalty to the state. Um, I think his character shows in the beginning of the film fear to step away from what the, what people have told him is correct. Right, we go back to Antonio Gramsci's hegemonic power, right? His theory on the hegemonic powers, and we see how the government, right, of Cuba has shaped David's perspective and view on society, right? His worldview, right, the way he views life is defined by, right, what the government considers correct in quotation marks, right? In all areas of life, politically, socially, and sexually, right? He represents this person who's obedient, right, and disciplined in the way things are meant to be, right? Again, in quotations, right? But then what happens is we see Diego's or David's first interaction with Diego, right? And Diego, a character who is much different than David in a lot of ways, right? Diego is a person who goes completely against what the government says is correct, right? The social norms that have been created, and he goes completely against it, right? When we look at the gender performance by Judith Butler, right? We see how gender becomes a social construct, right? It's society and culture determine what is gender, right? And we begin to see that based on the theory from Judith Butler, and we understand that Diego in Fresas y Chocolate begins to stray away from that social construct, right? He's not afraid to live the life that he believes is right. However, right, David is completely opposite. But we see as the film progresses, David begins to spend more time with Diego, and he begins to see the humanity, right, beyond the social construct, right, beyond what David has been told what is correct. He begins to see the human and the person in Diego, and he's able to begin to understand him and grow and build a relationship with him, right? Diego's kindness, right, his intelligence, his passion, right, for the art that he does, it challenges David's rigidness, right, or his sense of right and wrong, right? And through their conversations, through their moments together, they're able to begin to break down the walls, right? Break down the ideas that has been taught, right? And begin to form new, right? A new way of viewing perspective, right? And I think something that the film does well in is it shows how we develop as people, right? David's growth doesn't happen quickly, right? In the beginning, he's very hard-headed, and it's difficult for him to understand. But as the film progresses, we begin to see layers being ripped away, right? And that's how we are as people, right? We can't expect somebody to change immediately. We can't expect somebody to view the world from a different way if they've been so accustomed to it, viewing it in one specific manner, but having patience and compassion, just like Diego did with David, is crucial, right? So I think that's something that we need to do. We need to understand that we can break down the walls of the hegemonic powers. We can break down the the social constructs that have been placed upon us by them, right? We can understand, right, that we can build community with people that we never thought we could, right? But it comes down to having an emotional and social awakening into having it becomes this sense of compassion and caring and understanding about the person next to us and the world, and having a deeper sense of knowing that the world doesn't revolve around us, but there are people out there who are great in their own way as well.